Hey, left, right, out. We can go over two things primarily today. One, an article uh, detailing kind of the absurdity of what seeing in the economy, in like a lot of points that I've made. Two, about a men's coach, or he was a men's coach, and I believe YouTube kicked him off. But I watched him, and he was coach. His name was Coach Red Pill, and his actual name is, or his channel's name was Coach Red Pill. His actual name is Gonzalo Lira, and we'll go into him just in a second. So if you want to know a little bit about him, that might not have been reported, since I've watched him for, I don't know, a few years, when he was like a more of a men's coach. You can skip ahead. Anyway, I wanted to go over this article real quick about the economics, and it's titled, "We hope you enjoyed the ride through Fantasyland," which is what I've been saying. We're living in a fantasy land. We have been for quite some time, and we even more so are. And right now, we are like the Wile E. Coyote going over the cliff, and you still are trying to run or whatnot, because I can't believe the market is doing what it's doing with all these red flags and Federal Reserve that seems to be pushing forward with what they want to go through. But anyway, this article, I'm going to read it verbatim. So I'll give him credit who wrote this. I think it's Charles Hughes Smith. But he goes over these different plans, pretty much the bull case scenario for the market. And here's like, and I'll read them. There's 10 of them, and there's probably more, but these I've alluded to or directly addressed these in a number of times. But here we go. Number one, here's the default bullish case for stocks and the economy. This is what seems to be playing out, or what right now, but we all know that it's kind of a farce. But anyway, number one, the economy and equities can grow forever, aka infinite growth on a finite planet in a waste is growth landfill economy. Number two, higher energy costs have zero effect on the economy and stocks. Kind of know where that's going. It's completely illogical, right? But this is, like I said, this is a list of what the market seems to be playing as. This is what they seem to view the world as. So here we go. Number three, the Federal Reserve will deliver a soft landing, which reduces inflation back to net zero, while the economy and stocks continue lofting higher. Seems to be playing out, even though it's BS. 4, higher food costs and global scarcities have zero effect on the economy and stocks. I mean, I'm just this is what the market and everything and policymakers seem to be. This is like the playbook here. They're in fantasy land, right? Number 5, supply chains unraveling have net zero effect on the economy and stocks. We've had supply chains going completely AWOL for the last couple of years, yet the stock market and the pundits and whatnot, the economy is great, blah blah blah. Even though there's shortages everywhere, it seems like we've almost gotten used to it at this point. But that's not America, or used to be. 6, deglobalization has zero effect on the economy and stocks, which we know deglobalizing, especially in an entangled world, it will have an effect, especially when it comes to food and energy. 7, and wherever since we manufacture a lot of things out. But anyway, I don't want to get into it. I'm just reading this list. 7, higher interest rates have zero effect on housing, economy, and stocks. Which I don't know how this gets past people, because the higher interest rates, we've already seen the mortgage rates go, and we're seeing the cracks in the housing market. Yet the stock market and all these other people and real estate agents and whatnot, they seem to just whistle past this graveyard. Anyway, 8, continual evolution of more contagious variants of COVID-19 has zero effect on the economy and stocks, which I'll say I kind of disagree with this one. I think if anything, the market might have seen reality here, that as these things develop, they might be more contagious but less deadly. Seems to be playing out. And then we're just kind of over this, all right? We're going to have to live with it. Let's not be these alarmists anymore. I mean, unless you just want to be locked down for the rest of your life. None of us want that. All right, 9, there's no speculative bubbles in the housing stocks or other assets. I mean, obviously there is. 10, even if the speculative bubbles in stocks did arise, it would never pop because A, the Fed, B, Sentiment is bearish, so stocks can only go higher. NC, stock buybacks will continue expanding forever. ND, the yin Quatlo pair correlation with bat guano futures is signaling more bullish. That's obviously something that's supposed to be hilarious. So like they're finding weird correlations and all the different, and then weird correlations to justify upward movement in anything. Any Golden Sachs or Goldman Sachs, or I mean, we'll call, yeah, that's a play on words. If you don't know, Golden Sachs issued a buy recommendation, etc., etc. Fantasyland, right? and we're at this weird point. It has been for the years that you usually play the Fed, and for some reason they're not playing the Fed as much. But it's like bad news. It means stocks go higher because they know monetary policy and fiscal policy are going to then turn loose. And then good news means earnings and such and such are good. So either way you buy. Even so there was no like in any case where you would sell the market. It's just always up or up, no matter what. So good news is good news, bad news is good news. And it's non-farcical. But anyway, okay. So you digest that, take it where it is. Now let's get on to Gonzalo Lira. Now, I've paid attention to his coaching channel, and he's got some very interesting thoughts, especially when it comes to men or being men, dating, women in general. And then when he was doing that, I kind of realized he was filming from another country, and it turns out he was living in Ukraine. I kind of surmised that, having been in Ukraine and then seen some of his backgrounds and then kind of where he was. And I think he has a Ukrainian wife and kid. Well, when all this, I guess, he got kicked off there. He started another page. But anyway, when this Ukrainian thing kicked off, Ukrainian-Russian war kicked off, he, living there, was, giving his assessment on what was going on the ground assessment. And it didn't necessarily paint a great light on either side, right? I mean, it definitely, if you look at the Russian media, it was a little bit it wasn't pro, but it was a little bit lighter on the Russians, it's a more realistic view of what they're actually doing. And from the Western perspective, what we hear, it was a little bit more critical of the Ukrainians and how they were operating and how their government is operating. The people are awesome there. But there's some interesting characters running around. But anyway, he was fairly critical. And I believe, and I haven't heard anybody report this, but when he first started that, he had to leave and go to Kharkiv, which I don't think he was actually living. I think he lived there in the latter days, or he might have had a house there, but I thought he was somewhere else. I thought he was somewhere else. Or maybe he had a different home or something like that. Because I remember him saying, like, he was there, and for some reason he had to leave, and he might have missed being picked up by the SBU, which is the Ukrainian security, whatever unit, security services unit or something like that. I think they're SBU, or it might be some other thing. But they have not a secret service, but it's like a police, let's call them brown shirts pretty much, right, at this point. But anyway, I believe he said he missed them, and they just got to his apartment, and they missed him, right? Because they were trying to squelch his streams. They were, slightly critical, or it was more realistic if you ever listened to it. It's a very realistic assessment. Anyway, so what has happened, I guess, I believe is the Daily Beast or somebody threw out his doxed information. And the reason I'm talking about this, one, nobody wants anybody dead or tortured or anything like that. But two, we've just had this rash of dockings, whatever that gal doxed the lib TikTokers or liberals on TikTok, and then everybody's doxing her back because she was complaining about doxing before, but then does it. I mean, that's just nature of the progressive side. It's okay if they do it, but the principle only exists for you, not them. But anyway, so this Daily Beast, I believe it's Daily Beast. So if I get it wrong, I don't mean to disparage them, but it was somebody had doxed him and actually contacted the Ukrainian government, in our own government, and gave them information on him being there and some of his content. And so it was pretty well known that the Ukrainians kind of put an APB out, be on the lookout for this guy to snatch and grab him. And then all of a sudden, and they give him information about where he was located. Because in his videos, he talks about being in Kharkiv or Kharkov or whatever you want to pronounce it, but on the eastern flank there. Yeah, and he was giving like an assessment about things that were actually going on and things that were happening. And he's been on a lot of podcasts about it. But anyway, so they gave up his information there. And then he goes dark. And the guy doesn't usually go dark. He's been pretty steady about, putting out content or being on podcasts or getting a hold of certain people in the States. At least letting them know what's going on, giving them information. And he's gone dark. Then you go on the Twitter, and apparently, I don't know where this is leaking from, the Ukrainians or whatever, talking about how they snatched him up, and they're claiming he's some kind of Chilean Russian spy, which he's like of Chilean ethnicity, and then then he became an American citizen. Then he goes over to Ukraine or whatever. But anyway, which he was not. I mean, for most of us that have known this guy for years and have watched his stuff, we know that he's not like some Russian spy or anything. But anyway, whether they get him or not, if it was in like a Western country, well, I guess if it's not in a Western country, because like we got Guantanamo Bay and waterboarding and all this stuff, but it's even more clean cut over there. So it's like when you watch those movies, the snatch and grabs, where you got the black bags, I'm sure that's probably what happened. And if he's alive, he's probably being tortured at the moment. So, I mean, unless he somehow has just gone dark just to save his own rear end, I think that the security forces, and apparently what has been leaked on the Twitter by some individuals there that are referring to this, that these security forces did get him. They found him, snatched and grabbed him, whatever. It's not that hard to find people, I'll be totally honest. Like, you could, if you doesn't take that much. Anyway, they got him, and more than likely he's being tortured, or if not killed outright. But he is an American citizen, so that's the interesting thing. And I believe the State Department's on this, but you got so many moving parts down on the ground in a war zone, and first world war too. So there's so many moving parts that it's easy to get lost in the sauce there, or have something just disappear and not be able to hold that accountable. But I hope they find him. You don't want anybody dead. And I just when I heard that, I was thinking, man, what that guy's probably going through. And if you know somebody, I don't know him personally, but I've watched him. You kind of have some kind of relationship watching their stuff, and you see, and you can just think about what they might be going through at the moment. And hopefully, because he's got a wife and kids too. I just hate to see that. So we can hope that he's okay. But I'd be totally honest, I think he's in some dark hole down there, or maybe in a shallow grave at this point. But it's not good. See, over there, despite what the Western media says, it's not like some free country in Ukraine or whatnot. You say the wrong things, and especially now, you will go away. Things happen like this. They're not they're not these saints that the media portrays them as. I mean, the people are awesome, like I said, but the governments and the militaries over there, there's no good or bad side. Or there's bad sides. They're both kind of bad, in my opinion. But anyway, I'll leave it there, and we can just hope that Gonzalo is okay, and that his wife and kids too are okay. Because who knows? I mean, these people, I wouldn't put it past them going after the wife and kids as well. Hopefully, he had the foresight. He's a very intelligent man to put them in a safe spot. Anyway, talk to you later. Peace.